Hi, my name is John Ratcliffe, here with Channel 7 News. Today we take a look back on the wonderful decade that was the 1990s. Many wonderful and horrific events occurred in the 90s in many different areas and issues. We begin our coverage with the Columbine High School Massacre. On April 20th, 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, seniors at Columbine High School, decided to go on a shooting rampage inside their school due to issues of bullying. They planted bombs inside their school cafeteria and waited for them to go off. But when they didn't go off, they decided to take action into their own hands. They began walking around the school. Two students outside confronted them, shot them both. One, Rachel Scott, died later that day. The other paralyzed from the waist down. When the shots first rang out, students believed that it was just a senior prank. The seniors believed that it was their school senior prank and that it was no big deal and that they didn't have to worry about it. But teacher William Sanders believed different. He believed that it was a little bit more than a senior prank. He ran into the cafeteria and got all the students out as fast as he could. As many students as he possibly could. Any students that were left in the school, he told to get down and just stay down. He went up to the school library where there were a bunch of students studying. He told them to all stay at the tables as he slowly brought them all out of the school. When Harris and Klebold found out about this, they went up to the library, waited for Sanders. When he came out, he ran down the hall and then he was shot in the back. He was taken to his room with his science students, and he was dead. And he was pronounced dead an hour later. In the library, Klebold and Harris rang out shots, killing 11. In one final effort, they went around the school, let off as many shots as they possibly could, went back to the library, let off another round before taking their own lives. In total, 12 students were killed, not including two gunmen. One teacher, William David Sanders, hailed as the cafeteria hero by teachers and parents in the area, was also pronounced dead at the scene. If it hadn't been for his actions, many more students could have possibly been killed that day. As a result of Columbine, school security was bumped up and bullying was finally taken into effect in America. A tragedy that brought both sorrow and change to this country. With that, we take you live to our foreign correspondent Smith, who will talk about foreign issues and news involving the United States from the 1990s.
In 1990, Lech Walesa becomes the first president of Poland. He was born into a working-class family in 1993 in Powell. The strike in 1980 led to the formation of the National Committee of Solidarity, and the Walesa was elected as the chairman of it. And in 1990, Walesa was re-elected the chairman for Solidarity. His interest in serving the president in Poland became increasingly public. In the presidential election of 1990, Walesa won more than 74% of the voters, making him Poland's first popularly elected president. In 1991, a collapse of Soviet Union. On December 26, 1991, by a declaration of the Soviet Union, Soviets of the Republic of the Supreme Soviet of the Soviet Union, the declaration acknowledged the independence of the 12 Republics of the Soviet Union. The subsequently created the Commonwealth of the independent state on the previous day. The 25th December 1991, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has resigned, declaring his office and handed over the Soviet nuclear missile launching codes to Russian President Boris Yeltsin. In the same evening at 7:32, the Soviet flag was lowered from the Kremlin and replaced with the Russian tricolor. The dissolution of the world's first and the largest communist state also marked the end of the Cold War in 1992. In 1994, Nelson Mandela becomes the first president of South Africa. Nelson Mandela is a South African anti-apartheid revolutionary and the politician who served as the president of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. He was the first black African South African to hold the office and the first elected in a fully representative multi-election. In 1998, Panama Canal was returned to Panama after 84 years. It was open for transportation in 1914, and the Teddy Roosevelt was the main part to build this canal, and he wanted the canal to be built. In 1998, India and Pakistan tested their nuclear weapon. Soon after that, in 1999, they were almost in break of nuclear war between them, but President Clinton had stopped them to do so. Instead of the nuclear war, they fought a regular war called Kargil War. And this is of the greatest and biggest breaking news during 1990s. Thank you.
Thanks, Smith. As you can see, the United States was involved in much outside of the United States internationally as it was inside in the 1990s. Channel 7 now takes you over to Kyle to cover the sports from the decade that was the 1990s. Hi, I'm Kyle Smith reporting for Channel 7 News, here to bring you the sports from the 1990s. Whether it was a terrific accident or a wonderful moment, then it was a memorable time for all Americans. At the beginning of the decade, in 1992, in Barcelona, the Summer Olympics were held. And the United States sent the men's basketball team over to compete. It consisted of the NBA's greatest members such as Larry Bird, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Charles Barkley, Dukes Christian Leitner, Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson. They annihilated their competition, winning each game by at least 1 point, and cruised to gold over Spain. One of their head members, Magic Johnson, came out just months before with an announcement to America saying that he had tested positive for HIV. America didn't know what to think originally, and they were scared that it was a safety net for him to play in the NBA anymore. But the NBA commissioner allowed him to play, and cleared him to play for the Olympics in 1992. In 1995, on Oprah, Gaines, an Olympic gold medalist diver, also came out and said that he too tested positive for AIDS in a taped confession interview with Oprah. Not all the news, most news in the 1990s sports was good news, but there was sad news and then there was shocking news to the country. Hall of Famer Pete Rose was convicted in 1990 on tax evasion and gambling in Major League Baseball. He was banned for life and sentenced to 4 years in jail for tax evasion. In 1991, boxing champion Mike Tyson sentenced to 6 years in jail for his involvement in illegal rape. In a bit of a shocking story, in 1997, just after being released, Mike Tyson was back on top of the boxing world in a championship match against Evander Holyfield. He bit his ear off, and he was disqualified in the competition. Evander Holyfield took the title. The 1990s was also host to some of the greatest championships and champions you've ever seen on the face of the earth. Starting with hockey, which was still rapidly growing in the NHL in the 1990s. The Edmonton Oilers 1990 Stanley Cup and the Pittsburgh Penguins took 91-92 in a repeat performance. The Montreal Canadiens, the New York Rangers, New Jersey Devils, Colorado Avalanche all won Stanley Cups after a repeat of the Pittsburgh Penguins, before the Detroit Red Wings took 97 and 98 in a repeat performance, while the Dallas Stars closed out the decade in 1999. Heading over to the collegiate level, college football was rapidly expanding in the United States and becoming ever so more popular. In 1990, with a split performance, Colorado and Georgia Tech both took a share of the title, and in 91, Miami and Washington took a split title. In 92, Alabama took the title, Florida State took 93, and Arkansas lost to Nebraska, who took 94, 95. In back-to-back performance, Florida took 96, Michigan and Nebraska shared 97, Tennessee took 98, and Florida State University took 99. Staying on the collegiate level, go over to what America calls March Madness, one of the greatest tournaments that America has ever seen. In 1990, UNLV took the March Madness trophy. Fort Duke took 90-92 in a back-to-back performance. The Tar Heels of UNC took 93, Arkansas took 94. Great UCLA won its 8th in 95. In 96, Kentucky took the title, Arizona took 97. Kentucky took back the title in 88, and UConn closed that decade in 99. We hit the world of motorsports. Motorsports is a controversial sport in America. Some people don't know why it's a sport, but thank you, Kyle. In the 1990s, it's well proved that the United States was full of great athletes and champions. We now move over to more top stories. Our top story is the O.J. Simpson case. In the 1970s and the 1980s, O.J. Simpson was a Pro Hall of Fame NFL running back of the Buffalo Bills and the San Francisco 49ers. But in the 1990s, his life changed. At 12:10 on June 13th, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman were murdered outside of Goldman's home in Los Angeles. That week, Simpson was chased down and caught and arrested for the two murders. A criminal trial began on November 2nd, 1994, and proceeded until January 24th, 1995. On October 3rd, 1995, the jury came back with a unanimous vote of not guilty in the case of O.J. Simpson. He was not charged with either murder, but the two families weren't pleased, and they filed a civil suit against O.J. Simpson. And on February 6, 1997, he was found liable of the wrongful deaths of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, and forced to pay $33,500,000 in damages. His life completely changed. He lost almost everything, and the families finally got the justice that they wanted. In the 1990s, entertainment in America was very important to the public. Here to cover entertainment, Bella will now bring you news on music, TV, and movies from the 1990s.
The 1990s were a big decade for fashion. There were many different trends that are often found in today's fashion. JanSport backpacks were the most popular bags around, and everyone had to have one. They came in a variety of different colors and could match any outfit you wore. Another huge fashion statement was the one-strap overalls. All the cool kids would have one overall unhooked. Will Smith was an iconic figure for teens with fashion. He was one of the first people to wear overalls with one hook. There were a lot of trends with hair. You could have a bandana in your hair, have your hair crimpled. They used the butterfly clips and famous bucket hats. Monica and Phoebe in the show Friends wore scrunchies in most episodes, as well as overalls, butterfly clips, and crimpled hair. They truly represented the 1990s fashion. Chokers and snap bracelets were also very popular for young teens and kids. People would wear multiple chokers on their neck and make their neck look longer and make it look like a tattoo. Slap bracelets were also very popular for kids. The bracelet could turn from a bookmark to a bracelet. The 1990s fashion trends are similar to most popular trends today.
Thank you, Bella. In the 1990s, so much was brought to the public's attention in the form of entertainment, and it expanded from there. Moving forward, another top story in the 1990s was the Oklahoma City bombing. On April 19th, 1995, Timothy McVeigh and Barry Nichols parked a car outside the Alfred P. Moreau Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City. The car was filled with explosives, and at 10 a.m., the bomb detonated in front of the building. The whole center of the building collapsed and disintegrated in a matter of seconds. 198 people were found dead on the scene. Even in the daycare inside the building, 19 kids under the age of 6 were found dead. In a 6-block radius from the scene, 324 were destroyed, 89 cars were destroyed, and 680 people were injured from this. It was estimated at a cost of just under $652 million worth of damage. 90 minutes after the bombing first occurred, Timothy McVeigh was pulled over by an Oklahoma City cop for a lack of a driver's license and a license plate on his car. He was arrested, and when more information came forth, he was then charged with the Oklahoma City bombing. His partner, Terry Nichols, was given life in prison with no possibility of parole, and Timothy McVeigh was given the death penalty in the case of the Oklahoma City bombing. Also in the 1990s, weather made its presence known in the world, especially in the United States. I'll now take you over to Megan, who will cover disasters and storms in the 1990s.
There were many natural disasters that occurred in the 1990s, the biggest one being Hurricane Andrew that struck in 1992. Hurricane Andrew struck South Florida in August 1992. Andrew was a small and ferocious Cape Verde hurricane that wrought unprecedented economic devastation along the path through the northwestern Bahamas, the southern Florida Peninsula, and south central Louisiana. Its damage is estimated to be near $25 billion, making Andrew the most expensive natural disaster in U.S. history. The superstorm of March 1993. This storm recorded low pressures, wind speeds, low temperatures, and snowfall amounts that were more than enough for the storm to gain the status of the storm of the century. It killed over 250 people and canceled 25% of the United States flights for 2 days. The Northridge earthquake in Los Angeles of 1994. This earthquake had a 6.9 millimeter magnitude. The hypocentral depth was 19 kilometers and it lasted about 10 seconds to 20 seconds. The blizzard of 1996 in the eastern U.S. The blizzard of 1996, January 8, 1996, the storm dropped heavy snow from Washington to Boston. The snowfall at National Airport measured 17.1 inches, while the snowfall totals accumulated 24.6 inches. Other snowfall totals included 21 inches in Fredericksburg, Virginia, 22.5 inches in Baltimore, Maryland, and 25.7 inches in Rockville, Maryland.
Thank you, Megan. In the 1990s, the United States proved to have a really tough time when it came to the weather scenarios that played out. We now take you our final reporter, Dante, our hometown correspondent. He will now give you the local and regional stories from the area from this past decade.
Many important events occurred throughout America and all over the world during the 90s. Many things also happened locally in New Jersey, such as in 1991, the USS New Jersey, which was a battleship, was retired after multiple decommissionings and recommissionings. It had served for 49 years. The boat had received multiple battle stars and commendations during its service. There were plans for a museum at the time of its retirement, and those have come into effect. Later that year, the Halloween nor'easter, also known as the perfect storm, caused strong waves of up to 30 feet in height. High tides along the shore surpassed all but one other hurricane that occurred in 1944. The strong waves and persistent intense winds caused extensive amounts of beach erosion. In 1993, Christine Todd became the first female governor to ever be elected in New Jersey. She was the first Republican governor to be re-elected governor and the first female governor. In 1997, the state of New Jersey removed regulations restricting same-sex couples from adopting children, making it the first place to put gay and lesbian couples on an equal basis with heterosexual couples in adoption. In 1994, Megan Conca was assaulted and killed by a sex offender in Hamilton Township. The man had been convicted twice for sexual assault on children and had been projected to assault again, though he was not monitored at all. Megan Conca had been only 7 years old when she was assaulted and murdered. Her murder prompted the creation of Megan's Law, and the Megan Nicole Conca Foundation.
Thanks, Dante. In addition to all the national stories, there were many local stories from around regions of the country. Our final story in the top news of the 1990s is probably the biggest and could end a decade. It was the Clinton scandal while he was still in office as president. Between November of 1995 and March of 1997, 7 occasions of sexual encounters were reported by Monica Lewinsky. Monica Lewinsky was a White House page intern for President Clinton. And on January 17, 1998, news of the scandal finally broke to the press. 9 days later, on January 26, 1998, Clinton came over with a press conference to America and claimed innocence in the sex scandal. On August 17, 1998, he admitted in a grand jury taped recording that he had improper relations with Lewinsky. In November of 1998, the House of Representatives issued the articles of impeachment on President Clinton, and on December 19, 1998, the House voted and found President Clinton guilty of 2 counts, one of civil contempt and one of perjury. As a result, he lost his license in Arkansas, and his presence in the United States was punished forever. Nearing the end of his term, in February 12, 1999, he was acquitted of his impeachment by the Senate, just falling 17 votes short of being removed from office. President Clinton's reputation was never the same, and he finished the last months of his term in. With that about wraps up the history of the 1990s. There were many low times, but also many high times to be remembered. With all the highlights there, it was a wonderful decade that America can never forget. Reporting the 1990s, this is Don Radcliffe, Channel 7 News. Thank you for joining us.